The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 49, Returning to Camp. Tisk, what king of the mountain? The plump lady stood up and pinched some minced meat on the meat chopping block for the little tiger cub to eat. His family has been in decline since his grandfather's generation. Brother Hao is very skilled in martial arts, but it's only being used as a butcher. Don't you think that it is such a waste of talent? Mu Hanjiang sat down on a wooden bench in the yard, took the piece of meat, put it in his palm and gave it to the little tiger cub. The plump lady glanced at him and said angrily, "That damn fool listens to everything I say, but he refuses to listen to this one thing. I told him to take the martial arts exam, but he refused to go. He only knows how to butcher pigs. It's really hopeless." Mu Hanjiang curled his lips slightly when he heard this. This lady seemed coarse, but she was actually very considerate. She had long known that they were here to persuade Hao Das Hao. She let him come to her house to wash the tiger cub to use this opportunity to tell them not to insist anymore. Elder sister is a sensible person, but now times have changed. Even though the ancestor of the Hao family was a general of the previous dynasty, the grand ancestor had always praised him and never labeled the Hao family as rebels. Moreover, Brother Hao was born in the current dynasty. Naturally, the people of the current dynasty can make achievements based on their own abilities. When the plum lady heard this, she looked down at the tiger cub as it ate but didn't answer. The tiger cub shook its soaked fur as it clung to a piece of meat and ate it happily. However, not all of its teeth have grown yet, so there would be times that it would bite between the empty gaps in its mouth, so it had to bite again in a different way. Mu Hanjiang saw that it was eating happily and did not disturb it. He just spread out the cloth to let the sun shine on its little body so that the fur could be dried. Then he said, "Elder sister must be so diligent and thrifty in running the household, so she may end up being a wealthy butcher in the future. I don't know if elder sister had thought about it before, but should you have heirs in the future, would you like them to be butchers, too?" When the plump lady heard this, she couldn't help but became angry again. "I scold him every day about this. Even if he only becomes a constable, won't our children still have some hope in the future? If we have a son, then it's fine, he can still be a butcher, but if we have a daughter, no one will dare marry her. Elder sister must have an idea of why we are here. Prince Cheng is someone who appreciates talent. Nowadays, if a military man was not born in aristocratic families but wants to achieve success, then it's best to follow an imperial prince." Mu Hanjiang held the tiger cub that had eaten its fill and rubbed its fur. "Huh." The tiger cub lay in Mu Hanjiang's arms. It struggled at first, but when that gentle and slender hand stroked its furs again and again, it gradually calmed down. Soon, the little tiger cub, which had been on edge for a night and day, finally fell asleep. Mu Hanjiang realized that it was about time to leave. When it came to some things, saying too much could be detrimental. He stood up with the furry ball in his arms and said, "His Highness will not insist on this matter, but it would truly be a pity given Brother Hao's talents. It's the reason why His Highness came over here specifically this time. However, the army is already marching right now, so we cannot tarry for too long. We have to leave by tomorrow. If Brother Hao really doesn't want to, then it's fine." After saying that, Mu Hanjiang put a piece of silver on the wicker chair as payment for helping to wash the tiger cub and the minced meat. Without waiting for a response from the madam, he turned around and left. As soon as the couple left, the plump lady grabbed Hao Das Hao's ears and dragged him inside the house. "Wife, what you said is indeed reasonable, but this Prince Cheng is known for being ruthless and temperamental. If one becomes his subordinate, once the battle for the crown prince position commenced, the road will only lead to ruins." Hao Das Hao sat dejectedly on a chair. He also heard what Master Jun said today. As a citizen of the current dynasty, he should serve the court that gave birth to and support him. The previous dynasty was already in the past and no longer have anything to do with him. Maybe his persistence in staying out of things all these years was not necessarily right. A hero with no chance of showing his might, he had not felt this depressed about himself for many years, but that Prince Cheng was truly not a good choice for a master. That may not be the case. I saw how well he treated his military advisor and even bought him that tiger cub. I think a master who treats his subordinates as dearly as he treated his wife is far better than those two-faced scholars. This imperial prince had come all the way to Shangxia village for Hao Das Hao, which proved his sincerity. Moreover, they were leaving tomorrow. After this village, there were no other inns they could possibly stop at, making the madam quite anxious. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Va Wu, lying on the roof, the tiger cub scratched excitedly on the sheets underneath him. Jing Shao pinched the restless fur ball and said, "I'll throw you down if you make trouble again." The tiger cub struggled and turned to bite, but its neck was too short and it couldn't reach the fingers pinching it, so it could only wave its limbs wildly. It's male. Jing Shao stretched out a finger and poked the tiger cub's penis, which was hidden in the white fold of its abdomen. Really? Mu Hanjiang, who was resting on Jing Shao's arm, looked up. He couldn't see clearly, so he reached out and put the tiger cub in the gap between the two of them. The tiger cub was very unhappy when he was laid on his back. He grabbed the quilt and turned over, pointing his butt at the two people who were groping him. "Where should we send it?" Holding that long tail that was swaying back and forth, Mu Hanjiang pursed his lips as he felt some reluctance about parting with the little thing. However, it would be unreasonable to bring along a useless tiger cub on the march, but he was also really reluctant to give up the little thing. Jing Shao could see his prince consort's reluctance to give the little cub up. He had originally bought it for him to play with anyway, so he said, "If you give me a kiss, I'll let you raise it." "Really?" Mu Hanjiang turned to look at him. Jing Shao nodded solemnly. Then he closed his eyes and pointed at his lips. After waiting for a long time, he still didn't feel the other man beside him move. Just as he was about to open his eyes, he slowly felt a warm breath getting closer and closer. Then, something cool, soft and plush touched the corner of his mouth. When he opened his eyes, he suddenly saw a pair of innocent amber eyes. Huh! Looking up, Mu Hanjiang, who was holding the little cub, laughed so much that he fell on him. The next day, when Jing Shao went back, the plum lady was chopping meat at the pork stall, and there was a horse beside the stall. "You're here." The plump lady was very happy to see the two of them. She had been afraid that they would lose their patience and leave today. She wiped her hands on her apron and said, "I'll call him." After saying that, she turned around and entered the house. There was a commotion inside, and after a long time, Hao Das Hao, who was carrying the family's Hunyuan knife, was being pulled out by his wife. Jing Shao hurriedly stepped forward and hugged the reluctant Hao Das Hao. "Brother Hao is willing to come out to help me. This young prince has the blessings of 3 lifetimes. His tone was sincere, yet it didn't lack the heroic air of a military leader which gave people a favorable impression of him. "Your Highness praises this one too much. This Hao is but a brute man and really lucky to have His Highness regards." Hao Das Hao felt a little uncomfortable and secretly thought that this Prince Cheng was young, but the way he spoke and did things was very calm and indicated experience. He remembered that day in the butcher shop when they had a detailed discussion and thought that this Prince Cheng perhaps could be a good master. Maybe he could follow him for a while and see how things went. "Once I find someone to take care of this butcher shop, I'll go to the army to find you," said the plump lady as she waved at the 3 men on horseback with the knives used for butchering pigs. "This old one can also fight with these butcher's knives." They had to catch up to the marching troop that were taking a roundabout way, as soon as possible, so Hao Das Hao took them through the Dahang mountain path to meet up with the head of the troop. Having obtained this fierce general Hao Das Hao, Jing Shao was in a very good mood. Amongst the 3 vassal kings, the king of Huainan was the most difficult one to deal with. That man was not inferior to him in strategy and scheming, it was even proven that he had surpassed him many times. Even though the Huainan army was not as numerous as the imperial army, he still failed to defeat the other man many times. If it hadn't been for Hao Das Hao's help back then, the Huainan fiefdom would probably not have been conquered within 10 or 8 years. Now that he had gotten him on his side earlier, this attack against the southwest and the southeast should be greatly shortened. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Hao Das Hao looked strangely at Mu Hanjiang, who was sitting in front of the prince and riding a horse with him, and asked, "Why doesn't the military advisor ride a horse himself? He is not good at riding horses. He usually rides in a carriage during the march." Jing Shao explained. Mu Hanjiang jabbed him with his elbow. He was good at riding horses, but Jing Shao never allowed him to ride a horse by himself, always fearing that he would fall off. Hao Das Hao glanced at them with a look of disapproval. Since His Highness had officially married a wife, it really wasn't good to act ambiguously with some military advisor. Hence, following the adage of what the eye doesn't see, the heart won't grieve over, he decided to ride in front of them. "This tiger cub hasn't been named yet. What should we call it?" Seeing Hao Das Hao rode in front of them, Mu Hanjiang relaxed his body and leaned on the chest of the person behind him. He rubbed the tiger cub that was pressed to his chest. It had been trying to grab hold of Xiao Hei's mane for a while now. "Call it Xiao Huang." Jing Shao reached out a hand and flicked the fluffy round head. "Va Wu." The tiger cub shook its head resentfully, grabbed Jing Shao's hand and bit down on it with all its might. However, its teeth haven't grown completely yet, and Jing Shao's fingers got stuck in the gap between its teeth, causing the little cub to whine. "It sounds like a name for a cat." Mu Hanjiang frowned. "All the animals in the estate have names starting with Xiao." Jing Shao pointed with his chin at Xiao He, who was walking with its head down. "Xiao." Mu Hanjiang swallowed down the Xiao Shao that was at the tip of his tongue and said instead, "Xiao Huang, that's fine." Taking a shortcut through the trail, the three of them crossed Dahang Mountain in less than a day, rested for a while in a small town next to the official road, and then chased the army. Back at the military camp, Mu Hanjiang was a little worried that Zhao Meng and the others would reject Hao Das Hao. Unexpectedly, Zhao Meng saw his Hunyuan sword and started to compete with him. Jing Shao gave him a reassuring look. As the saying goes, birds of the same feather flock together. It was actually very easy for this tough and rough men to get along. A sparring match or a jar of alcohol was enough for these men to soon become a band of brothers. The two quickly started trading blows in the open space in front of the camp, attracting the attention of many people to stop and watch. The Right Protectorate General, who was also there to watch the excitement, saw a small yellow fur head in the arms of the military advisor and excitedly approached him to ask, "Military advisor, what is this?" "Va Wu." The tiger cub, who was sleeping soundly, was woken up and opened a pair of big hazy eyes to look at him. His round furry ears were turned over by sleep, which was quite funny. "Yo! A tiger cub!" the Right Protectorate General exclaimed in surprise. He picked up the little tiger and held it up in front of him to examine it closely. Ouch! The tiger cub was shy with strangers and struggled endlessly. However, the tiger cub was too small and had negligent strength, so it couldn't break away. It raised its small furry paw and hit the Right Protectorate General's handsome face with a paw. Ouch! The Right Protectorate General was caught off guard. He whined in pain. He subconsciously let go of his hold and the little tiger cub fell to the ground. Soon after, Mu Hanjiang was about to pick it up when a blurred figure passed by and the yellow fur ball had landed safely in Ji Ruoyi's arms. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 50, Tiger's Teeth and Crane's Beak. How skillful! The Right Protectorate General, who had been given 3 bloody scratches, saw Ji Ruoyi's masterful steps and couldn't help the admiring expression on his face. No wonder the military advisor brought over this maidservant to the battlefield with him. It turned out that she was an expert. Mu Hanjiang was slightly surprised. Ji Ruoyi had only learned hidden weaponry from the Ghost of 9 Blades for a few months. How could she be skilled in martial arts already? This is a footwork passed down through my family. It's called treading on the waves barefoot. It's just a small trick. This servant has shown the right protectorate general something laughable, Ji Ruoyi said with a smile as she comforted the tiger cub in her arms. Oh, it's such a good trick. Please teach me when you have time. The right protectorate general grinned as he leaned over to poke at the tiger cub's head in her arms and continued, little thing, you have quite a temper. Ruoyi said it's a clan technique. If right protectorate general wants to learn, he must first become a member of the Ji family. Seeing Ji Ruoyi's awkward predicament, Mu Hanjiang stepped forward to take the tiger cub back and teased. Oh. I'm willing to do that. Oops. The right protectorate general chuckled and was about to say something more when his head was suddenly slapped. He turned around angrily and faced the expressionless face of the left protectorate general and exclaimed, "What are you doing again? Why are you hitting me? Your face is bleeding." The left protectorate general said. Really? The right protectorate general touched his face and sure enough, the scratch was bleeding and it was quite painful. It's fine. This small wound will heal in a while. Put medicine in it. The left protectorate general pulled him back to apply medicine on his face. Why would this need medicine? A scar on the face is a very manly symbol. Perhaps His Majesty might even award me with military merit for this injury. The right protectorate general struggled fiercely. If this little wound was treated with medicine, he would surely be laughed at by Lao Zhaomeng. Then how would you report this merit to the emperor? Are you going to declare that it was the king of Southwest who scratched you? The left protectorate general grabbed his collar impatiently and dragged the noisy man into the tent. The surroundings finally got quiet. Mu Hanjiang smiled and rubbed the tiger cub's head, thinking that he had to trim the little thing's claws. Ignoring the noise of the people outside, Mu Hanjiang, who was tired from the journey, returned to the military advisor's tent and lay down on the large and soft bed. After sleeping on the roof for 2 days, he really missed this clean and soft bed. The tiger cub walked around the bed and started to pounce on the soft quilts one after another, having a great time. When Ji Ruoyi came in with the food, Mu Hanjiang was almost asleep. The tiger cub grabbed a strand of his black hair and kept chewing it. Ji Ruoyi chuckled and put the plate on the small table in the tent and said, "Young master, have something to eat first before you go to sleep." The smell of the food made Mu Hanjiang, who had been eating only dry ration for a day, suddenly felt hungry. He pulled his hair out of the tiger's mouth, took a cloth and wiped the saliva on it. Then he stood up and sat at the small table, looking at the appetizing and delicious food in front of him. He couldn't help but be a little surprised. "Did you made these?" Although the food in the army had improved, it will never reach this level. Young master is tired. It's better to eat something good. Ji Ruoyi smiled. Prince Cheng had asked her to cook 2 dishes for the prince consort to eat. You are considerate, but it is better to do less of this kind of thing. As a military advisor, I should eat the same as the other soldiers have. Nevertheless, Mu Hanjiang still picked up his chopsticks and said, "Go and get some minced meat to feed the tiger cub, but..." He still couldn't bear to call it Xiao Huang, as he still felt that it was a little silly to call a tiger Xiao Huang. Ji Ruoyi watched the little tiger cub biting the pillow on the bed, and ladled a bowl of soup for Mu Hanjiang. "This maid will go get it later. If young master wants to raise this tiger cub for keeps, then young master should personally feed it. If this kind of ferocious beast cub was fed personally at a young age, it would regard the person who fed it as its mother. When it grew up, it would never hurt its master." Mu Hanjiang nodded slightly when he heard this and asked, "How could Ruoyi know this?" "My family used to conduct business over the seas, and my father once brought back a lion cub," Ji Ruoyi said. The smile on her face gradually faded. In order to protect her, that lion had been shot full of arrows by the Southeast King's archers. It was only by hiding under the lion's carcass that she had been able to escape. She took out a small embroidered pouch from her pouch and showed it to Mu Hanjiang. It contained a bunch of golden lion fur. The fur was solid and bright. One can imagine how powerful that lion had once been. Mu Hanjiang tied up the purse and returned it to Ji Ruoyi. He sighed softly and said, "Ruoyi, now that the war has started, the lips are dead and the teeth are cold. The Southeast King will not sit idly by and ignore the withdrawal of the vassal estate from the southwest. Sooner or later, the fight with the southeast will also commence. Young master, there is no need to persuade me anymore. This Ruoyi has already decided." Gripping the purse tightly in her hands, Ji Ruoyi smiled, but tears welled up in her eyelashes. This made servant lives for the sake of revenge. Relying on the army to destroy the Southeast King will not be able to dissolve the hatred in my heart. Mu Hanjiang looked at her and couldn't help but sigh. After traveling for another half-month, the first batch of troops who marched to join up with Prince Cheng's army joined forces and marched to the border of Shu. Suddenly heavy rain fell, and Jing Shao immediately ordered the camp to be set up. It's no good for them to be soaked up in the rain. They lacked medicine, so it's no good if the soldiers fell ill. Marching in the rain would also slow them down. It wasn't worth the losses, so everyone agreed that it was better to wait for the rain to stop before setting off again. "Jun Qing, don't come out yet. I'll call you when the camp is set up." Jing Shao opened the carriage curtain and spoke to the person inside the carriage. "You should come up, too." Mu Hanjiang put down the tiger cub in his arms and took a cloth to wipe the rain off Jing Shao's face. Jing Shao smiled and poked the little tiger with his rain-stained finger. "I'm fine, I have to go and watch over them." After saying that, he jumped off the carriage and directed everyone to set up camp. The Hunan army that came to join was led by a general. He would never listen to instructions from Zhao Meng and the others, so Jing Shao could only personally step in. "Young master, Ruoyi would like to set off first." Ji Ruoyi, who was sitting in front of the carriage, looked at the sky and spoke to Mu Hanjiang. "Now." Mu Hanjiang was a little stunned. All the strong men in the military camp had to sit around and wait out for a few days for the torrential outpour to let up, and yet this young and weak maiden wanted to rush on her way now. Ji Ruoyi smiled and said, "This kind of rain will not stop for 4 or 5 days. Yesterday, His Highness received news that the Southwest King is currently selecting beauties to give to the Southeast King. If I arrive late, I'm afraid I won't be able to make it." Mu Hanjiang frowned, looking at the maiden who spoke such words so calmly, and he felt inexplicably heartbroken. "Take this. Once you get your revenge, don't do anything foolish and wait for us in the southeast." Ji Ruoyi took the banknote handed to her by Mu Hanjiang. She remained silent for a long time, then she knelt on the footrest and kowtowed to him 3 times. "If this one has the fortune to survive this time, this Ruoyi will definitely use the rest of my life to repay Prince Cheng and Prince Consort Cheng's kindness." ******. Jing Shao directed everyone to set up the tent and was completely drenched when Ji Ruoyi came over, wearing a raincoat and leading a horse to him. "Go ahead. Someone will pick you up outside Shengjing Mountain Pass." Jing Shao handed a token to her. "Have you said goodbye to the Prince Consort?" "This one did just now." Ji Ruoyi replied, the sound of rain covering up the sobs in her words. She knelt in the rain, kowtowed 3 times to Jing Shao as per custom. Then she got on a horse and cracked the whip as she rode away. The horse's hooves kicked up the muddy water, causing water to splash everywhere. The slim figure covered by the raincoat quickly disappeared into the downpour. People who have nothing are the most terrifying. Therefore, the ancestors have said that one should be prepared for anything. As per the law of the righteous human relationship, every deed had an appropriate retribution. The consequences of killing to the last would be revealed, sooner or later. Just like his own rebirth. Perhaps it was the will of the heavens whose purpose was yet to be seen. Jing Shao was distracted for a moment, then he walked towards the carriage that was driven near the tent by the driver. Since their journey was impeded by the heavy rain, Jing Shao lazed for several days around the gentle and sweet home that was the military advisor's tent, but he became more and more dissatisfied with Xiao Huang. Jun Cheng. Jing Shao threw his prince consort down on the bed. There's nothing to do, so let's do something interesting. As he said this, he began to untie the lapels of his wife. No, it's broad daylight, hey. Mu Hanzhong struggled to push away his husband who was on top of him. When the little tiger cub saw Jing Shao ripping off his master's clothes, he also pounced on him, scratching and biting the snow-white clothes. Go away, this is mine. Jing Shao immediately became unhappy, holding the tiger cub and throwing it aside. However, the tiger cub was so energetic that it thought it was playing with him when it was thrown away. So it jumped back and grabbed Jing Shao's hand, biting and gnawing with its belly facing up. Its two hind paws won't stop moving and scratching. Ha ha ha. Mu Hanzhong couldn't help laughing when he saw this scene. Jing Shao looked at his prince consort with a gloomy face. When he laughed out loud at this point, the mood disappeared. Finally, after waiting for the rain clouds to scatter, the army began moving forward again and soon joined the Shu army. It was already the 9th lunar month by the time they arrived at the southwest border where the Qian army had been waiting. Since then, 100,000 troops have been gathered. They were originally supposed to camp 50 li away from the Shengjing mountain pass, but Jing Shao ordered them to camp 100 li west of it. Your Majesty, in order to enter the southwest, one must go through Shengjing Pass. Zhao Meng said in front of the map. He did not agree with Jing Shao's decision to camp 100 li away. Only when they were close enough would they be able to move in the siege equipment. The Laohe Mountain stretches for more than 200 li from north to south, with only one low-lying mountain at Shengjing Mountain Pass. If they wanted to march into the southwest, that was the only way. There will definitely be a massive military force stationed outside Shengjing Pass. If we attack there, we will definitely suffer heavy casualties. Jing Shao sat on the high platform and said solemnly. Everyone thinks that the most suitable way to attack the southwest is to enter through Shengjing Pass. He also thought so in the last life, but unexpectedly, the Shengjing Pass was easy to break through. However, beyond the pass stretched a narrow mountain road that was tens of li long with unbroken terrain where ambushes could be laid everywhere. Moreover, within the pass lay other passes. Even if they could force their way in, it would require much time and effort to do so. In addition, this would allow the Southwest King to take advantage of them as their forces would get exhausted. By the time they would drag themselves out, the Southeast King would have already rushed over with reinforcements. Then, what should we do? In this area of several hundred li, apart from Shengjing Pass, there is only the Tiger's Teeth Pass. Do you want us to enter from there? Hao couldn't help but speak up. He had read the art of war since he was a child and knew these passes like the back of his hand. The Tiger Teeth Pass here was different from the Tiger Teeth Pass in Jingzhou. This one was known as Tiger's Teeth, Crane's Beak. The terrain was extremely steep, with rugged rocks that look like a crane's mouth. The hanging rocks are as jagged as the tiger teeth. There was only a single mountain road through this pass. It truly was a place where a single man could hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. These days, only Jing Shao called the tiger cub by its name while everyone else called it Little Tiger. Thus, when Xiao Huang heard someone said tiger's teeth, it thought it was being called, so it immediately responded with a yowl. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 51, Brocade Pouch of Miraculous Plans. The Laohe Mountain stretches for over 200 li. After passing the Shengjing Pass, there is a narrow road that was dozens of li long. If the enemy was lying in wait to ambush us along that length of road, then it would be like catching turtle in a jar once we entered it. Also, there was no one who could come to our rescue. Seeing Jing Shao's insistence, Mu Hanzhong helped him out by inserting timely comments. The military advisor is right, but the Tiger's Teeth Pass is more dangerous than Shengjing Pass. The Southwest King only needs to set up a formation of less than 100 people there to stop my thousands of troops. Zhao Meng frowned and pointed at the location of Tiger's Teeth, Crane's Beak Pass. Jing Shao knew of a way to break the Tiger's Teeth Pass, but that method was too ingenious and specific. For someone who had never been to the Southwest in this lifetime, it would be difficult to convince people to believe his words. He couldn't help but frown as he said, "We'll discuss this again tomorrow." After everyone dispersed, Jing Shao remained seated on the high platform, still looking at the Southwest map with a frown. To live this life again, knowing how things were going to proceed but not being able to say it, really made him feel frustrated. He sighed softly. If it really was impossible, he could have them lead the troops to Shengjing Pass tomorrow while he himself would take a group of light cavalry and scale the Tiger's Teeth Pass. "Did you receive some information that you can't reveal?" Seeing Jing Shao like this, Mu Hanzhong pursed his lips and sat next to him. Jing Shao looked up at his prince consort whose eyes were full of concern. He reached out to pull him into his embrace and said, "Jun Qing, how could you guess it so accurately? Don't you know that military advisors can read minds?" Mu Hanzhong teased back with a smile before he slowly lowered his eyes. It was because he liked Jing Shao that he paid special attention to his expressions. He could see that Jing Shao seemed to know a lot of things, though he didn't know where he gets such information from. If Jing Shao didn't bring things up himself, Mu Hanzhong couldn't ask. When the day comes that he was ready to talk about, he would naturally say it. "Jun Qing, there are some things that I can't explain myself clearly. I don't mean to hide them from you." Jing Shao sighed and put his chin on the shoulder of the person in his arms. "N," Mu Hanzhong responded softly as he sat up slowly. Then he looked at him and said, "Now let me know what information you have so I can see how I may be able to help." Jing Shao pulled up the map on the table and explained in detail where he knew the Southwest Army's ambush would be and how to scale Tiger's Teeth Pass. The more Mu Hanzhong listened, the deeper his frown got. Given how meticulously detailed the information he got, it seemed that the spy that Jing Shao sent to the Southwest was really powerful. However, since the information was so precise, it made people feel that it was untrustworthy. They will not believe these small details and the battlefield changes rapidly. I am not completely sure that the Southwest King will actually arrange things like this. Jing Shao sighed. He knew these things, but he also felt that things might have changed. Everything may not go the same way as before, so he suddenly felt uncertain. "Who do you think is the most suitable person to break the Tiger's Teeth Pass?" Mu Hanzhong did not exactly respond to his words but asked a question directly. "How das how?" Jing Shao said without hesitation. This was one of the reasons why he was in a hurry to find How das how. At that time, it was Jing Shao himself who had broken through the Tiger's Teeth Pass. He had been fighting for several months in Shengjing Pass to no avail. It was with great difficulty that they finally made a breakthrough, yet they once again ran into an ambush. Having ran out of alternatives, he as the commander-in-chief of the army had taken a desperate risk and broke through the Tiger Teeth's Pass with a group of men instead. The Tiger's Teeth Pass seemed steep and dangerous, but the fact was, many troops could be stationed there. However, very skilled people were required for that operation. They must be someone who excelled in martial arts and knew how to adapt to the circumstances. Mu Hanzhong nodded slightly and said, "Leave this matter to me. I will definitely be able to persuade him tonight." When Jing Shao heard the word tonight, his heart suddenly trembled. "How are you going to persuade him?" "I have my ways." Mu Hanzhong smiled mysteriously, but unexpectedly, Jing Shao gripped his wrist from behind him and pulled him back. His body suddenly fell unsteadily into Jing Shao's arms. "Not allowed to go." Jing Shao suddenly became furious. To have his prince consort persuade How das how in the middle of the night, no matter how he thought about it, it seemed dangerous. His prince consort was so attractive. If Hao Das Hao took the opportunity to demand something improper in return, and if Jun Qing accepted a compromise in order to not fail in this endeavor, then the more he thought about it, the more terrible it seemed. Therefore, he mustn't let him go. Mu Hanzhong was stunned for a long time, not understanding what was going on. It wasn't until he heard Jing Xiao muttering, "Human face, beast heart, and excellent martial arts skills," that he realized what Jing Xiao was angry about. He couldn't help but feeling angry and finding it funny at the same time. Where did your imagination wander off to? He really didn't understand how Jing Xiao had come up with so many things from just that single sentence. Could it be that he had been thinking too much about tactics recently, so he would always jump ahead to the conclusion he came up in his thoughts, to the extent that he got caught up in some small details? The two argued for a long time. In the end, Mu Hanzhong failed to persuade Jing Xiao and had to compromise and agreed that Jing Xiao could listen to the wall outside the tent. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Jing Xiao stood outside Hao Das Hao's tent, holding his breath and listening carefully to what was going on inside. The military advisor is here so late, is something the matter? Hao Das Hao asked very politely. There is a matter that I have no choice but to disturb the general with. Mu Hanzhong said with an equally polite voice that sounded warm and sweet. Ha, this general was only conferred this title of lieutenant general through His Highness' benevolence. I am not worthy of such a position. Hao Das Hao sat down and carefully wiped his Hunyuan sword. With Brother Hao's talent, it was only a matter of time before he was given a title, Mu Hanzhong said with a chuckle. It was just that Brother Hao was conferred the title of general as soon as he entered the military camp. Although most of the officers and soldiers knew of the general's abilities, it was only because of lack of meritorious deed to your name that it's hard to convince the rest. As soon as Hao Das Hao entered the camp that day, he competed with Zhao Meng in martial arts. Although his experience in fighting the enemy was not as extensive as General Zhao, who had killed enemies for many years, he was not inferior at all due to his superb martial arts skills. In the end, relying on the Hunyuan sword technique passed down from his family, he managed to subdue Zhao Meng's Iron Bian in one move. Moreover, Jing Xiao was in the position to make an exception and directly confer the title of general on Hao Das Hao. Of course, this Hao knows this. If the military advisor has something to say, you might as well say it directly. Hao Das Hao had a good impression of this military advisor. His intelligence, resourcefulness, and tactics were of superior level. In Shangxia village, the military advisor had surmised at a glance that the key to persuading him to join the army was through his family's Hedong lion. Moreover, he had been able to persuade her with just a few words. Jing Xiao stood outside the tent and counted the hours. The two inside had been talking quietly and some of the words they said could not be heard clearly from where he was, so he was getting a little anxious. Your Highness, why are you here? When the Right Protectorate General saw Jing Xiao, he stepped forward and patted him excitedly. Your Highness, are you here to discuss swordsmanship with Brother Hao? What swordsmanship discussion? Jing Xiao felt the veins on his forehead throbbing. He clenched his fists so tightly that the cracking of his bones could be heard. At this moment, Mu Hanzhong opened the tent flap and came out. Seeing Jing Xiao's livid face, he tried hard to suppress the corners of his mouth that wanted to curl up, and said to the Right Protectorate General, "It's getting late. General Hao will lead troops tomorrow. The Right Protectorate General should go to bed early as well." The Right Protectorate General was quite disappointed that he could not discuss sword technique with General Hao. Then he thought of how the Left Protectorate General knew how to use double-edged swords, which was similar enough to the single-edged one that Hao Das Hao used. Thus, he excitedly ran off to the Left Protectorate General's tent. The two of them were supposed to guard the main camp anyway, so they wouldn't be heading to the battlefield. It didn't matter if they got a little less sleep. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. How did you tell him about scaling the tiger's teeth, Crane's Beak Pass? Jing Xiao laid on the bed with his military advisor within his arms. The right protectorate general had interrupted him at that moment, so he hadn't been able to hear it. Also, Jun Qing came out soon after. How did he exactly explain it to him? Jing Shao was very curious about this. The mountain man has his own clever plan. Mu Hanzhong said profoundly. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next day, all the generals gathered in the middle tent again. Mu Hanzhong changed into a dark blue long-sleeved robe, wore a dark silk scarf and held a feather fan. He looked like an otherworldly being in front of everyone. This commander-in-chief decided to send 3,000 people to break through the tiger's teeth, Crane's Beak Pass. Who is willing to go? Jing Shao spoke at the people in the audience in a deep voice and slowly glanced around. 3,000 light cavalries are enough. This general is willing to go. Hao Das Hao stepped forward without hesitation. He had already looked through the brocade pouch that the military advisor had given him last night. In it was information on how to deal with any matter, regardless of its importance. It was clear that the pass had already been explored and investigated. If he still couldn't break through the pass with such useful information, then his surname wasn't Hao. Good. Jing Shao smiled happily and ordered, Hao Das Hao shall lead 3,000 light cavalry through the Tiger's Teeth Pass and will set out at once. This general accepts the order. Hao Das Hao left after receiving his command. No one voiced any objections to the fact that only 3,000 people went to try their luck at clearing that pass and began to discuss the tactics for dealing with Shengjing Pass. When this one was observing the celestial bodies last night, this advisor managed to glimpse some clues. Mu Hanzhong suddenly said. Please speak, military advisor. Zhao Meng immediately agreed. Since the last incident, he now trusted this military advisor very much and was willing to listen to his opinion on anything. Naturally, we should take charge of Shengjing Pass. With General Zhao leading his troops, we should be able to defeat the enemy in one fell swoop. Mu Hanzhong looked at Zhao Meng, who was obviously delighted. However, after breaking through the pass, I'm afraid that there are some variables that must be considered. What do you mean? A young general next to him couldn't help but ask. It was rumored that there were military advisors who could discern the course of action and their consequences from observing the celestial bodies at night. Unexpectedly, their military advisor had been fortunate enough to see something in the stars, making the young officer inevitably excited. Mu Hanzhong gave a detailed account of all the advantages and disadvantages but didn't reveal where the Southwest Army would be lying in ambush. He merely pointed out several weaknesses which made everyone apprehensive. Military advisor, are you sure about these things? Zhao Meng was also a little hesitant about this matter. He had never met anyone who could formulate strategies based on observing the celestial bodies, so he couldn't decide whether this was reliable or not. If things were truly as what the military advisor said, then the tactics that they initially came up with had to be revised. The military advisor's astrological reading are never wrong. Zhao Meng, you are commanded to lead a troop of 50,000 cavalries to attack the Shengjing Pass, Jing Shao interjected in a timely manner. Zhao Meng accepted the order, and Mu Hanzhong gave him 3 brocade pouches and explained, when you arrive at Shengjing Pass, you can open the first pouch. After you break through the pass, you can open the second brocade pouch. Travel 20 li into a valley up ahead and rest. There you can open the third brocade pouch. Never open any of them ahead of time. Remember this at all costs. Sitting behind the table, Jing Shao looked at his prince consort with his mystical appearance as he explained those divine strategies and schemes. Moreover, it seemed that he had managed to convince these hard-headed monkeys. He secretly pinched his thighs to keep himself from laughing. After Zhao Meng and the other young generals left, Jing Shao summoned the commander of the Shu army and said, have the 30,000 soldiers and cavalries of the Shu army on standby. Once you receive the news, use the rushing yoke formation to immediately enter the southwest from the Tiger's Teeth Pass and convene with Hao Das Hao. This imperial prince has already given instructions to Hao Das Hao on what to do. All you have to do is to listen to his instructions. This general accepts the command. The commander of the Shu army left after taking his orders. After everyone had dispersed, Jing Shao became silent for a moment before he looked up at his prince consort who was still waving the feather fan. Jun Qing, you are really, ha 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 ha. Jing Shao didn't manage to bear it to even finish his sentence. He collapsed on the table laughing. Mu Hanzhong glanced at him and said without concern, military advisors have always had brocade pouches of miraculous plans since ancient times. This advisor was simply imitating the ancestors. If it were anybody else who had tried this, they would certainly be suspected of deceit. However, Mu Hanzhong was so composed and carried an air of unfathomable mystery that he actually made this group of people believe in this inexplicable theory of astrology. Jing Shao looked at him and gradually suppressed his smile. Jun Qing, I am not completely sure about these things today. If there are any omissions, your prestige in the military will be greatly affected. What will you do then? If it were him who was wrong about this matter, it would only be considered a momentary mistake on his part. After all, no commander-in-chief was completely invincible. However, with Jun Qing's status as an advisor, everything had to happen as he had predicted in order to maintain his prestige within the army. Mu Hanzhong saw the worry in his eyes and couldn't help but smile. I don't have any plan to rely on this to secure an official position. Even if I lose my prestige in the army, would His Highness use this as reason to divorce me? End chapter.